Coming to you live for the Build Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network and wherever you are on the free Odyssey app. Good Tuesday morning. Boomer out again today. He will be back tomorrow. That means we got Willie Colon in again with CeeLo as Jerry is out on the West Coast. Good morning, Willie. How are you?
Good morning, man. How you holding up?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay, I think. I'm having one of those issues where all the little things in the world are bothering me, and I'm trying to stop that in its tracks. Because
I've never seen angry Gio.
Yeah, it's irritated me.
Okay.
That's what it is. This will happen this time of year to me, and I have to try to put everything in perspective and realize that things are absolutely great. But you get to this point sometimes in the winter doldrums where I get super irritable about every single thing.
I was going to say, are you getting the winter blues? My wife gets the winter blues bad. Like, I have to make an extra effort to temper my mood because she's from the South, right?
Yeah.
And down South right now, I mean, I know the country's going through a little bit of a polar vortex, if you will. But down South, if you're, my wife's from Mississippi, it's in the 70s right now. So she's used to that. Yeah. Right now, it's cold and freezing. There's a sheet of ice in that driveway. And she just stares out the window like she's listening to a Robert Frost poem or something like that.
Yep. So. Yeah, I'm sort of doing the same thing. I'm just looking outside.
That's what she does.
Don't want to be outside and 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And thank goodness there was supposed to be a nor'easter that came through here. It was going to dump 20 inches of snow, and they were wrong about that.
Thank God.
And then I started getting annoyed that they were wrong about it. And I thought to myself, well, no, that's better than them being right about it. I didn't want them to be right about it with the 20 inches of snow. Yeah. And then I got mad that they were wrong about it. I said, now nobody can win right now in my mind.
I guess we're both having a bad day. I came out, I finished the show yesterday, and I was in a really good mood.
Yeah.
And I came home and polished off, didn't mean to, but I know Al's going to hate me for this, but I polished off a pan of cookie brownies. And, my farts have been smelling like dog biscuits every day. So it's brutal right now. So I've been.
Oh, no.
No, I won't do it to us.
No, it's like,
I won't hot boxes.
Yeah, so. I've been through a lot of that with Boomer, who
really?
Who refuses to admit that he does it, but he does it constantly, and it's fine. It's just if he wants to go and rip him in the studio, I'm fine with it. What I don't like is the lying about it. Like, I'll come back.
You know what it is? My mother-in-law, not God rest her soul, she's still here, she's still kicking, but she doesn't know when she goes. Like she'll pop up out of her seat and be like. Blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, Annie Faye, like, you just farted in public.
Yeah.
She'd be like, did I? What do you mean you did I? You just lit the room up.
Yeah.
She'll have this blank stare, like I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a definite line of demarcation in your life when you are getting older, where standing up is a time that a fart is going to squeeze out of you. Like, that doesn't happen in your 30s.
Too fast, it just rips right out of you.
Right. I mean, it's like nobody in their 30s does that happen to.
No.
And you get to like your 40s. It's happened to me before. It
really?
Definitely has. Like laughing and then a fart comes out.
Yeah.
There's
that
one
happens.
of those. But standing up, I stood up recently and had that happen. And I said, I'm finally in that age group now. Here I am.
I don't want to get to the point where I'm in denial that it did happen. Like, she'll look at me like, no, I didn't. I didn't hear anything. I'm just like, the whole room heard this. Like, it's a problem. And you need to take a lap.
Yeah, I'm an own your farts guy.
Yeah,
I let everybody know if it happens. I'm like, listen, this is what I did, and I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, it's rude, actually. But
it is. But sometimes you got to get it out, But, yeah, so you went home and you ate the whole.
I felt horrible. Yeah, that's why I'm hitting the gym right after. My niece made some brownies for the family.
Yeah.
Absolutely delicious. And I polished them off, and my stomach's been in knots ever since.
Yeah. And then you got stuck in every possible maze in this building today.
I have no idea why this building's built like the Pentagon. Like, why it's every door has to be locked around this place? Has something, Eddie? You've been here a long time. Like, was there ever an incident where somebody went rogue when they feel like they need extra security?
No, but the construction that is taking place now has just added another layer.
Okay.
To the ridiculous amount of hoops you have to go through to get into the building.
Gio had to save me 25 minutes ago. I was trapped in between two doors.
Yeah, you know where
elevator
he was?
bay?
Yeah. No, but not the elevator bay. He was trapped there first. He was trapped by the freight elevator. He was in that little hallway by the freight elevator, which was hilarious because he goes, "Hey, could you find me? I'm trapped." So I see Fleegs. I'm like, "You see where Willie is? Because I don't see him in the." And then he's just banging on the thing by the freight elevator. How did you get in there? No one gets in there.
Like a damn mannequin just standing there.
So
looking into the hallway.
How did you even call for I didn't think the freight elevator was even manned.
Well, no, I went to get a cup of Joe, and I want to scoot across, and I'm like, oh,
right into the lobster trap.
Right there, just locked.
Right.
And you know what's the worst part about it? It doesn't matter how loud you bang. If you don't have your phone on you, you're done.
Yeah, you're screwed.
You're done.
You're absolutely.
And I hate bothering Gio. He's prepping for the show. Obviously, he's not in a good mood. Right, he's getting his makeup done, and I'm here looking like a nonner. So.
No, it was hilarious seeing you in there. I have to be honest with you. It was almost like an exhibit. It was like walking by. I was like, former NFL player over here.
Standing there looking like a member of NWA.
Oh, it was great. And then, by the way, I wanted to ask you, because Al saw a car yesterday leaving the city or somewhere in New Jersey with the license plate Big Willie on the back. Do you have a Big Willie license plate?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, that would be awkward.
Yeah, I did catch up with the car because I wanted to see. It was a woman driving.
Oh. Hey, it's a new time, right?
Yeah. Big Willie, right, exactly.
New time.
Used to be Big Wilhelmina until she had to change it. Yeah, so this is how I know that I need to get, and trust me, because anytime that I hear people complain about little things or I complain about little things, like people get mad. And so that's like I've really, really tried to stop that because it's ridiculous. But how I know I'm on a bad trajectory now is I'm getting irrationally angry at sports takes. That's when I know I'm losing it.
Well, isn't it that we're in that kind of time slot where the football's behind us?
Right.
Basketball has already turned the corner. March Madness is ahead of us. Hockey's kind of in the heat of things. Baseball's up ahead. We're kind of in limbo right now.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that going on, but there's still plenty of talking points that people bring up. And, Aaron Rodgers is one of those things. The Mets and the Yankees are one of those things. And, I've disagreed with our overnight host, Chris McMonagle, on this. And I saw him this morning by the coffee, and I was like, I don't want to. He just finished his show. I hate when people just hammer me with the things I said on the show right after the show that I'm talking about. I was like, I just did 4 hours on this. He did finish 5 hours. But he did a good job did a really good job because he got me annoyed about his sports takes. And it's all about Aaron Rodgers and the locker room and the culture change and all of that. So they play this cut from Solomon Thomas, who is a really, really intelligent, bright guy. Went to Stanford, right?
Yes, sir.
And played for the 49ers, and he was on with John Jastrzemski, a guy who used to work here who's got a podcast now. And Solomon Thomas goes on and talks about Aaron Rodgers, how everybody in the locker room loves the guy, and, man, what a great teammate and a great guy that he is. And, so McMonagle and the producer, Mike Fliegelman, are like, well, see, like, how could this guy be a problem when Solomon Thomas said that he's not?
Right.
So I can counter in all sorts of ways with that. One, do you really think that Solomon Thomas is going to go on with JJ and say, man, this guy's the biggest jerk I've ever seen. What a self-absorbed a-hole, and I can't wait for him to leave? That's one right there. He's not going to say that. And then two, like, I don't care what anybody in that locker room has to say about what direction the Jets are going because they stink. Now, Solomon Thomas is a guy who actually saw some winning, unlike most of the Jets roster when he was on with the 49ers.
True.
But, like, the opinions of those guys mean nothing to me because they have underachieved year in and year out. And then plus, like, the best chance is the other argument. This is where I started losing it and, like, gripping the steering wheel and said, you got to chill out. is when C-Mac goes, Chris McMonagle, he says, yeah, it gives you the best chance to win bringing Aaron Rodgers back. And I don't know how you can say that when they spent a season of Zach Wilson and won 2 more games with him than they did with Aaron Rodgers, who was healthy for a full season, supposedly healthy for a full season, dealing with injuries. And to think he's going to come back and be healthy again and give him a chance is insane. So I call it New York football derangement syndrome because we have not seen good football here for so long that when you see like Aaron Rodgers play 3 good football games, everybody thinks that he's back to his MVP self. He's bad. He was here for 2 years. They won 5 games. It's time to go.
Yeah, and I think the problem is when you talk about the back half of last season and what he's been able to tally up. I mean, threw for over 3,000 yards and 28 touchdowns, and people are saying, there's still something in there. Aaron Rodgers is done, man. Like, let's keep it a buck at a buck. Like, it's over with Aaron Rodgers. I think in reference to keeping him on the team, I only side with it on one accord, that I have empathy for Quentin Williams and Jermaine Johnson, because once again, they're going into another season talking about rebuild, right? And these guys have been through that enough. People forget Quentin Williams is going into his 7th season.
Yeah. He was a McCagnon draft pick.
100%.
Yeah.
So he's never had a winning season. He's never sniffed the playoffs. So here he is the last 2 years in his mindset, I'm at least going to the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers. That didn't happen. Now he's looking at a quarterback. They don't even have a quarterback as of right now. Yeah. So he goes, man, like, am I ever this was a group of guys between Quentin Williams. You talk about Garrett Wilson. You talk about Sauce Gardner. There's a core there that believed when Aaron Rodgers got in that building, better times were ahead, and it failed miserably. So now they're going into the season saying to themselves, I don't know where we go from here. Right? I'm already all pro. All right, if I'm Quentin, I'm already all pro. I got the bag. I got the notoriety. I just want to win, and that doesn't look like that's in his future right now. So I have empathy in that regard because, listen, if Aaron Rodgers could be half of what he used to be, you got a shot. But like to your point, we know that he's not that guy anymore.
Yeah, and staying healthy for an entire season to me is impossible for him. It's just impossible. And I know that he played through the injuries last year, but he was miserable in those games where he was playing through the injuries. And also the if you ask anybody in the Jets locker room, they'll say that Aaron Rodgers, they love Aaron. Okay. Well,
that's a mixed bag. That's not everybody loved Aaron Rodgers. It wasn't like he was the camp counselor. Everybody, drew up cards for him and told him, I love you. That wasn't the case.
Right. I mean, and you know better than me, but I would assume that Garrett Wilson doesn't love Aaron Rodgers. And definitely Mike Williams, who he destroyed on national TV and then got him out of here, didn't love Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, you could say that
How about the front office, right? And like, there's a reason why they asked him if he was to remain on the team, that he couldn't get on enough with the Pat McAfee stuff.
Yeah,
that became a problem for them as well.
Right, and also, what the players think of him and what are distractions to the players is different than the coaches and the GM, because the coaches have to answer all these questions every single day. Like, you didn't, like Rob Saleh had stepped in it because Aaron Rodgers was in Egypt, and then, some of the other.
By the way, a planned vacation.
Right.
You don't just pick up and go to Egypt.
Right. That was so silly, the whole way that they handled that stuff. And like the coaches have to deal with those things more so than the players do. So it's not the same type of relationship. And I'm sure that there are some guys out there that really liked Aaron, and playing with a guy that's got that much experience and that much of a resume is something that the Jets had never seen. I mean, they basically had this, teenage kid in there and Zach Wilson, who was way over their head, and then they get this decorated guy, and that's cool for them. But it didn't work, man. Like, and if you're Aaron Glenn, you go in there and just say, this is not how we're starting this new regime. I just don't. I'm sorry. This is the last regime's failed experiment.
You had to clean house.
Yes.
And so you have to have faith that Aaron Glenn and company is going to do what they need to do to get this thing on the right track. But I said it yesterday, man. Like, I forgot the OC's name, the new guy. His name is Terry Stringe or something like that. I apologize if I'm butchering his name.
Yeah.
But this guy's he was a pass coordinator with the Detroit Lions. And on top of that, he was an offensive coordinator in the UFL, right? So
Tanner Engstrand.
There you go.
Yep. So
this guy doesn't have a lot of experience. So now you're going to sit him in a room with Aaron Rodgers. And we know how Aaron handles things when things don't go his way. It'll be chaos. Right?
Yeah.
So you had to get Aaron out the building. You got to give this young guy a chance to run and do what he knows best and how he can run this offense.
Right. And then also, Aaron's going to want to do the things that he wants to do and get up to the line of scrimmage and then figure out the plays and all these things he's been doing forever. And that's why, he brought Nate Hackett with him, because Nate Hackett wasn't going to challenge him on anything. Mm-hmm. So it's totally fine that he's gone. And this is not to me about next year, because they're not competing for a championship next year. I mean, if they somehow snuck into the playoffs, it would be amazing. But this is about the long term, and they are looking at Aaron Glenn like the Lions looked at Dan
Signed him
Campbell
for 5 years.
Right, like that's what this is about. It's about taking a team that's been in the toilet and building it up with a first-time head coach to be a team that you can count on making the playoffs for multiple years in a row. So next year, it's not about that.
But I think you hit it on the head yesterday when you talked about the division in its whole. Like, Josh Allen is king of this division.
Yep.
Like, the Patriots feel like they have their quarterback in Drake and May. Tua's not going anywhere, right? And the Jets don't have a guy. So just in the division, like, how are we competing?
Next year, you're not. But and that's okay because a lot of teams don't. But you have to be building in the right direction. And I wish the Jets had hired someone with experience, but I really thought that they needed a guy who had been there before and been through the wars and walked into that building.
So you didn't like the hire?
No, at first I did not.
Okay.
I mean, but then I was thinking about it. I just wish they had talked to some of these other guys too. I thought it was silly that you don't like. Why not just have a discussion with Pete Carroll, have a discussion with Mike McCarthy, like just have those discussions. But I also can't say that nobody wants the Jets job and then be really, really upset that they hired someone who didn't have experience because a lot of people didn't want the Jets job. And they did find the guy who wanted it.
Right. But
that's a good thing.
You hit that right on the head. And then you talk about one thing, like if you bring in Mike McCarthy, what's the one thing that Mike McCarthy does really well? He builds quarterbacks up, right?
Yeah.
Like he gets the best out of young quarterbacks. He just don't have a quarterback, right? Especially if you were, I'm pretty sure if there was a phone call to be had, he was, listen, Woody's like, well, we're getting rid of Aaron, so we're going to have to figure something out. We got this young kid out of Florida State, maybe you can make hay with, but out of that, we got to find a guy. Mike McCarthy doesn't want to deal with that. He's just leaving Dallas where everything was put on his shoulders, and he was to blame for a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, and that's then as far as some of these other guys that were like, I guess, did they interviewed Matt Nagy, right? I'm pretty sure they did.
They did.
He would have been someone I would have loved to hear how that interview went. That would have been someone I would have considered because I don't think his tenure in Chicago was that bad. But I mean, these guys, they didn't want to be the head coach of the Jets. But I didn't want to see the same story again. We're like, all right, coordinator, defensive coordinator who's never coached before, comes in here, hires a staff that's green. I mean, it's essentially the same exact thing with Rob Saleh as it was with Aaron Glenn as far as what those guys' resumes are. And they also, he brought in Mike LaFleur with him, who was a first-time offensive coordinator, young guy, gone after a couple of years.
LaFleur. He just didn't. Just wasn't connecting with Zach Wilson for whatever reason.
Well, what does connect with Zach Wilson? I mean, anything.
Fair.
You know what I'm saying?
Was Kellen Moore ever in the conversation?
I don't think so. No, I don't think he was interviewed. I'm pretty sure he was not interviewed.
That sucks.
You thought that would have been a guy?
Well, yeah, I like Kellen Moore. I like what he did in Dallas. Obviously, he's Super Bowl champion right now. He's going to be the head coach of New Orleans Saints. I just feel like a guy who's young, offensive-minded, knows how to get through quarterbacks. Even though we don't have one, but if you were to take a shot at a young guy like Jordan Travis out of Florida State, he's a guy I can see Kellen Moore putting his teeth in him like, hey, man, I can mold this kid to be somebody.
Yeah, I mean, but then I'm thinking, like, I love the offensive side of it with Kellen Moore, and I love the fact that he went through it and with a championship team. Yeah. All of that is great. But if I'm hiring a first-time head coach, I would prefer to have the guy that at least knows this organization.
So you'd rather have the experience.
I want experience more than anything.
Right.
But if I'm choosing a guy who's a first-time head coach, if I'm choosing between Aaron Glenn and Kellen Moore, I mean, Aaron Glenn has been through the worst of the worst with this organization. He knows how bad it can get. And he saw it have success, too.
Well, I think part of it, too, the media market is a big factor.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Being able to stand in front of listen, covering the Jets with Bart Scott and Connor Rogers and Gelbs, watching those guys at the end of games, like, it's a stoning. Like, it's not – I know coaches go through it, but I see the way these guys have to sit there, especially after a bad loss or a loss that they should have won, a game they should have won, excuse me. It's a stoning, and it's like repetitive questions.
Oh, yeah.
It's redundant. And then on top of that, you're talking about a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers where you have to answer questions about and also kind of walk around landmines because Aaron's going to have a response to whatever you said in your presser, right? And so it's not an easy job to be the head coach in this market because of all the scrutiny that comes with it. And Valley, you say, well, you say that for any. It's different in New York.
No, it definitely is. It's also different for the Jets because the Jets are just one of those teams that just has not worked out for most of their franchise history. And it's like all these things that they have tried just hasn't worked. And this was set up perfectly for them, and it failed at the highest level. All right, Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. Willie in for Boomer again this morning. We'll get CeeLo in here, his first update of the morning.